What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Marvel Select Silver Centurion Iron Man from Diamond Select Toys. And when I saw this figure in the promotional images, I thought that he looked pretty good. I was excited about it, but once I got it in hand, I was completely blown away. It comes with a crazy amount of accessories. Obviously, they do show the accessories in the promotional images, but you really don't get a good sense of how much stuff is actually in there until you get the figure and just see everything that we have going on. We've got a bunch of different heads, different hands, energy effects. It's just crazy the amount of stuff they put in with this figure, so it's very exciting. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. We do have the standard Diamond Select style packaging, which means we have this big huge box, but in this case it's okay because they filled it with accessories, so that stuff is awesome. And right through the window here you can see Iron Man. You can see all the stuff that he comes with. Over here it says Silver Centurion Iron Man down at the bottom, and that classic comic book font, so that's cool. On the side of the box we get a look at the figure itself. On the back, we get the figure in a couple of different poses, along with some of his energy effects. This pose right here is pretty interesting because I've heard a lot of people say that he can't really bend that much at the torso, but right here, that's a pretty good amount. So hopefully the figure is able to bend at least that amount. We'll see. And then right here, we have a little bit of information about Tony Stark. And then here it tells us that it was sculpted by Gentle Giant Studios, which is great. Those dudes always do amazing work. So shout out to Gentle Giant. And that's about it for the packaging. It's not collector friendly, so once you open it up, you have to throw the box in the garbage where it belongs. But enough about the box. Let's go ahead and talk about Iron Man. Oh shit, okay, so here we have Silver Centurion right out of the box, and I've got to say right off the top, this thing is absolutely incredible. This is going to go down as one of my favorite Diamond Select figures. There's so much that I like here. He does have some restrictions in the articulation department, but aside from that, this thing is pretty much perfect. Just check out how good he looks. I love the proportions, I like the size, the stature, just everything about the way this figure looks is amazing. He definitely looks like an actual human in an armored suit, so they did a good job in that regard. But where this figure really stands out is the paint job. I'm a sucker for this like candy red on Iron Man figures. I loved it on the recently released modular Iron Man from Hasbro, and I love it here too. That shiny red just gets me every time. But man, this thing looks really, really good. And he's got a lot of good stuff going on. When we get into the accessories, you'll see like this this thing is really decked out, especially for a figure that costs so little. You know, this guy's about $35, I think. That's what Marvel Select figures are at these days. So there's a lot in there for that 35 bucks. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at him. Look at that shiny red, man. It looks so nice. They did a good job. And let me go ahead and show you this. This backpack is removable, so that's nice. But then another thing that was kind of weird to me is these pieces come off, and I think this is why, so that you could kind of make it look like these things come out to the side. So that's a cool little feature. I could be wrong, but you know, whatever. I think it's a cool look, you know, to have Iron Man with these things popped up, and the wings have a little bit of details on them, so that's kind of what makes me think this is the case. I don't know, I might have to reach out to Adam and see what he says, see if that was the intention there. But yeah, look at that, man. Really, really cool stuff. And I'm just kind of blown away by how nice this figure came out. Diamond Select really did a great job. But let's go ahead and get in close and take a look at all the sculpted details and this nice pretty red paint. As always, starting off at the head, this is a really good looking Iron Man head sculpt. I love the faceplate. I like how it has a more of like a toned down gray kind of color to it. It's not as reflective as the red, and it's a very nice contrast between the red and the gray. So I think that looks really, really good. And I just love the way this looks with the head and neck and everything. It just looks so accurate to the way he looked in the comics. So I really, really like that. The paint is very well done on the head too. There are a couple of little tiny imperfections, and that's kind of consistent throughout the whole figure. There's a couple of nicks here and there, but nothing major. Like there's something very slight right here at the very bottom of the little earpiece, I guess you could call it. And I did kind of notice it looks like they kind of touched up the back of the head a little bit in the factory, because you could see a little split in colors. It's all metallic red everywhere, but it gets a little darker than light right in here. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but in person you could see a slight change. It's nothing major, and it's something that I probably wouldn't have noticed unless I was sitting here inspecting the figure like I was, you know. So, you know, not a huge deal. Sometimes they have to touch things up in the factory. It happens, but yeah. the head sculpt is really nice, so I'm happy with the way that came out. Moving down into the upper body here, I like all this stuff that we have going on around the neck and the shoulders and the chest and everything. It looks really good. I love the way they did the shoulder armors, because at first I thought this was one solid piece and this did not move, but as you could see, the whole shoulder piece moves, so it doesn't get in the way of the articulation, and it all just looks really nice because the lines on the actual shoulder piece kind of make the line that is caused by the articulation kind of just blend in with the design of the armor. So that turned out very well for this figure. And yeah, look at how good this red looks. Again, there's little nicks, nothing major. There's a tiny little mark right there, and then like on the fist, this one's a little bit more apparent, obviously. But yeah, there we go. You know, little stuff like that I'm not too mad at, because the rest of the figure looks so amazing, and like they just put a lot into the look of this. This is one of the best looking Marvel Select figures I've ever seen. I love this red paint job that they have on here. And, you know, I could forgive a couple of imperfections here and there, because for the most part, this thing looks like stunning, I would say. And I don't think I've ever used that word for a figure. But yeah, this thing is straight up stunning. I was blown away once I saw it in person. I was like, holy shit, this thing is incredible. And then moving down into the legs here, same thing applies for the legs and the arms. As I said, for the face, it does have a more like toned down gray color, and it's a nice contrast with the rest of the red on the figure. So really good stuff. Then moving down into the legs look nice, and that nice red kind of continues throughout the whole figure. On the back, we do have the backpack that I discussed a little bit before that is removable. And yeah, just a beautiful looking figure from Diamond Select. So the other area where this figure really shines, aside from the way it looks, is the amount of accessories that he came with, because oh my god, they went all out. They gave us pretty much everything that we would want to see with an Iron Man figure, and they got pretty crazy with all the effects and multiple heads and multiple hands. They really went all out, so I love to see this kind of thing. But let's go ahead and take a look at this stuff, starting off with the simple things. First off, we do have multiple sets of hands. We get a pair of fists, and then we have a set of open hands, and then we have another set of open hands where the fingers look a little bit more curled. It kind of looks like he's getting ready to use his repulsor blast. Speaking of the repulsor blast, he does come with a set of repulsor blast hands that do have a peg hole in the center, and he does come with repulsor blast effects that you could peg right into those hands, and that looks really, really nice. And then speaking of effects, he does come with these awesome effects. I'm not really sure how to describe these. These are just like blast effects, but these things are amazing. I love them. They look so comic book, you know? They kind of look like they're moving too. So this is a really cool looking effect. I love these, and they are attached to the fist, so you don't have to worry about them falling off or anything. The fist just pegs into the arm, just like the other hands, and then we have the effect on the fist, so you just don't have to worry about them falling around or flopping around or any of that. So I really like the way they did this. And then he does come with a couple of these blast off effects. These look really nice. You could plug them into the bottom of his feet and make it look like Tony is flying. I think they did a good job with sculpting these things. I like the translucent orange and dark orange that they used on here, so these came out very nice. And then the final blast effect is one that actually plugs into his chest, and this is awesome. Like, I love the way they did this. So you could just remove the triangle piece from his chest, and then you could plug this right in, and this looks really, really nice. I like the pinkish color that the energy has, and I think this is such a cool looking effect. So they did a great job with all of these crazy ass effects. And he does come with 3 different heads. First off, we have the one that we already looked at, and this is just his like standard helmet head, but this looks really, really good. They did a great job with the sculpt work on that. And then next up, I'm not 100% sure what to call this. I don't know if this has an actual name, but this is like his tactical computer look or something. I don't know. It looks like something came out from his forehead and then covered his eyes. But yeah, this looks really cool too. And I know this comes straight from a comic book panel, so this is really good stuff, and I think they did a great job with this too. And then last but not least, we have an unmasked Tony Stark head, and this thing is freaking perfect. They did such a great job of capturing the way that Tony looked at the time that he was wearing this armor. Like in the 80s, he had a mullet and a mustache, and this head sculpt just captures that whole vibe perfectly. So they did a great job with it, and this is definitely going to go down as one of my favorite Tony Stark head sculpts. It's not number one. Number one is still the head sculpt that came with the Marvel Legends 80th Anniversary Iron Man. I still love that unmasked head sculpt, but this one is right up there with it. I think they did a great job. And now for some size comparisons, we have Iron Man alongside a couple of other Marvel Select comic book based figures. On the left, we have the Marvel Select Ultron, which is still one of my favorite Marvel Select figures, and on the right, we have the Marvel Select Hawkeye, which is a really good looking figure, but he doesn't have all that much articulation. Still, I think he looks really good next to Iron Man. And then next up, we have Iron Man alongside the Marvel Select comic book Doctor Strange and the Marvel Select comic book Taskmaster. And then for some West Coast Avengers action, here we have Iron Man alongside the Marvel Legends Moon Knight with the custom cape from Fizzled Customs. And that dude is awesome. You need to go check out his work if you're not familiar with him. I'll leave a link to his Instagram in the description below. He does amazing work. I got a really nice Doom cape from him too. But yeah, it really saved this Moon Knight to get this soft goods cape on him, because before that, it was a little boring. You know, you had the big plastic cape. It was very restrictive and it didn't look all that great. But once you put a soft goods cape on there, this Moon Knight figure becomes awesome, because I love the body that they used, but you know, Hasbro just doesn't really do soft goods capes for Marvel Legends. I wish they would, but luckily there's people like Fizzled Customs and Harker Customs and High School Creations out there, all kinds of guys that do soft goods capes. So be sure to check those kind of dudes out if you want to improve on your figures a little bit. And then on the opposite side, we have the Marvel Legends Mockingbird. And obviously, both of these figures are a little too small to hang out with this Iron Man. I was kind of thinking that I could fudge it because he is a guy in armor, but it really doesn't work out. He's a little too big. And since Mezco figures are a little bit bigger, I kind of thought that maybe Moon Knight could scale with this Iron Man, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. This Iron Man is just a little too big to fit in with any of your 6-inch figures, but you know, that's completely okay. But yeah, here we have him alongside the Mezco Moon Knight, and then on the opposite side, we have the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn, but this one has a custom cape from High School Creations. So he did an incredible job on that, and once again, he really saved this figure for me. Now I'm super happy to display this just like this. This is awesome. So shout out to High School Creations. And next up, we have him alongside the Mezco 112 Collective Classic Iron Man and the Marvel Legends Modular Iron Man from the Ursa Major Build-A-Figure wave. And it's crazy to me that companies like Diamond Select and Hasbro are making Iron Man figures that, in my opinion, look almost just as good as the more premium lines like Sentinel or Mezco, and at a fraction of the cost. So it's kind of mind-blowing. You know, a lot of times Mezco stuff and Sentinel and all these other kind of things throw in other things to justify the price, like crazy accessories and articulation and all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about just in terms of aesthetic and the look. I feel like Diamond Select is right up there with like the Mezco stuff when it comes to this Iron Man. And that's not the case every single time. A lot of times they have figures that don't look very good. But in this case, I feel like this Silver Centurion Iron Man looks like it could have been put out by one of those higher end companies, in my opinion. And the same thing goes for the modular Iron Man from Hasbro. So that's pretty interesting what they're able to do at a fraction of the cost of the higher end stuff. And because somebody requested it, here's a quick look at the Silver Centurion Iron Man alongside the Marvel Select Hulk. And then for the final size comparison, of course, we have the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cat. And even though the articulation is a little bit restricted, I think for the most part, they did a pretty good job with it. The only thing that feels kind of restricted are the knees and the elbows because they are single joints. But aside from that, I think they did pretty good with this. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting off with the head. The head does move side to side. We get a little bit of tilt to it. And we only have movement at the head, and it does look like the neck is a separate piece, but we don't get any movement at the lower neck. So all the movement is going to come from the head itself. So we do get some side to side and some tilt. He could look down to about right there, which is not a whole lot. And then he could look up to about right there, which I do wish that he got a little bit more out of that so that you could get him into convincing flight poses. But you can use the torso to compensate for that. So there you go. And that's not too bad, but I do wish that the head was able to look up just a little bit more. And then speaking of the torso, we do have a diaphragm cut, and it's always tricky with Marvel Select because we see the diaphragm cut in the promotional images, but then a lot of times the diaphragm cut doesn't necessarily work the way it should. In this case, I think it does work pretty good. So we get a little bit of side to side. So that's pretty nice. And it can swivel a little bit, but you're going to get your swivel from the waist for the most part. But you can move it a little bit at the torso. And then it does go back to about right there, which is pretty decent. And then you could crunch forward to right there. You might even be able to get it to go a little bit more if you mess with it. But yeah, look at that. That is not too bad for an Iron Man figure. I could live with that. I don't really even feel the need to pop this apart and modify it. I think that's fine. And you know, like I said, might be able to get a little bit more out of it. Yeah, so look at that. That's pretty good. I could definitely live with that. So pretty good stuff there at the torso joint. And then for the arms, he does have ball jointed shoulders that are kind of sunken into the shoulder piece. But fortunately, the shoulder piece actually swivels all the way around, and I freaking love that. And then you could bring his arms out to the side. to about right there. But then at that point, they are obviously hindered by that shoulder armor, but that's okay. And then he does have upper bicep swivel. And then he does have single jointed elbows, which are even more restricted because of the forearm. It kind of blocks its movement. So it only goes to about right there, which is a little less than 90. So I do wish that his arms were able to get a little bit more. I think if his forearm was a little bit longer, I don't know what they could have done actually, because then this would have ran into the biceps. So if they were going to go with this design, I'm not sure what else they could have done to increase this. But again, I'm not mad at it. I could live with it. I think it looks good. And, you know, it's not like Tony Stark's going to be in like kung fu poses when he's all armored up. So I could live with that. And then at the hand, we do have a swivel and a hinge. For the legs, whoa, look at that. Holy shit. Oh, man. It's a nice spread there, Tony. And then he could kick forward only to about right there. Bring it back to right there. And then he does have upper thigh swivel. And then at the knee, he's got a single joint. But this single jointed knee actually gets pretty good range. I mean, that's like, that's about 90, right? Maybe a little bit less, I don't know. But, you know, again, I could live with that. And then we also have a swivel at the knee. And I think I forgot to mention it, but we also have a swivel at the elbow up here. But yeah, so we have a swivel at the knee with the single jointed hinge. And then at the foot, he has a swivel. And you can bring his foot forward to right there. You can bring it up to right here. And then he does have rocking ankles. So there you go. Again, obviously the single joints at the knees and elbows are not ideal. But there's enough here to enjoy that I could just kind of overlook that situation there. I think for the most part, he's got enough articulation for an Iron Man figure. So I'm pretty happy with it. I was very satisfied with the torso because that's the part that I was kind of unsure about, you know. Like I said, with Diamond Select, with Marvel Select, you never quite know. You could see the bend in there in the promo images, but sometimes it's just a cut, like it doesn't move at all. There's plenty of Diamond Select figures that have a torso joint, but it doesn't move. Luckily, that's not the case with Iron Man. I think they did a pretty good job with that and the articulation in general, so I'm happy with it. Alright guys, so I'm sure it's not a surprise to anybody at all, but I really love this figure. I think the folks over at Diamond Select and Gentle Giant Studios really did a great job with it, especially with the way he looks. In my opinion, this is a perfect looking Silver Centurion Iron Man from the comics. It's got like a bulkiness to it, it's got an old school feel to it, and I think they just did a great job of capturing that look in plastic form. So they really killed it as far as the sculpt and the overall look goes. There's some nice sculpting work on the armor. The unmasked head sculpt is very well done. I think it's probably my second favorite Tony Stark head sculpt, so they killed it there. The articulation does leave a little bit to be desired, but I think for the most part it works for Iron Man, so I'm okay with that. Another area where they really went above and beyond is the accessories. I can't believe how much stuff they threw in there. There's all kinds of good energy effects, all kinds of different hands, 3 different heads. They just went all out with the accessories, and it's insane what Marvel Select gives us at the price point. You know, they're hit or miss. Honestly, I don't love every single Marvel Select figure, but I continue to support the line because, in my opinion, when they hit hard. And this figure right here definitely hits hard pretty much in every single aspect, except for articulation. But again, it's functional for Iron Man, and I think that the look and the accessories really make up for it, and they definitely compensate for the lack of articulation. It really doesn't bother me that much because there's so much other stuff going on here, and just in general, I'm very satisfied with what we have here. But yeah, like I said, with Marvel Select, you know, sometimes they could really disappoint. And honestly, I would say most of the times they disappoint. But every now and then they come out with something like this and they just absolutely kill it. And they've actually done that twice this year with this guy and then with the Marvel Select Hulk. So, you know, when they want to, they definitely kill it. And I really hope that they continue on this path, giving us figures like him and Hulk. And I think that, you know, they would be better off and a lot more people would be into Diamond Select. But anyways, I love this figure and I'm very happy to have it. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you very much. Peace.